Hey, it's me, the Rhino, for Survival Skills 101. Here today to talk to you about what happens when you sleep in a patch of poison ivy. I'm not proud of it, okay? Things happen. It's the worst thing that's ever happened to me, though. Well, except for the time when I jumped over the White House fence naked, holding a sign that said, "Kiss this, Mr. President." Anyway, let's talk about it. The poison ivy, I mean. You know, I want to say poison ivy is absolutely no joke. This video is one of the most important videos that I have ever done, because if you've ever gotten poison ivy, you know it is one of the worst things that can ever happen to you. You could spend 2 weeks itching and scratching and suffering, and I want to help prevent that. Anyway, I want to share a story with you. When I was 13 years old, I lived in Tulsa, Oklahoma. Me and my buddies would climb over a fence to get to this golf course. Now, they didn't let any kids on the golf course, and every time we got on the golf course, they would kick us off. We must have been kicked off at least 300 or 400 times. It was awesome, but we would take the golf balls that we would find, and we would sell them back to the golfers. It was a great business. Trouble is, I think they planted poison ivy around the fence to keep people like me out, because I got poison ivy several times. One time it was so bad that my whole entire arm was weeping and scabby and pussy and running, and I would put bandages on it and it would leak through. It was the worst thing I ever had, and talk about stinky. I never want to go through it that bad, and I don't want you to either. So let's talk about how you can spot poison ivy where you live. So where are the big three found? Well, poison ivy is found all over the United States, with the exception of California and parts of Oregon. You guys have poison oak. Now, poison oak is similar to poison ivy. It's just a different leaf structure, but it's very similar to the poison ivy plant, and you can see the similarities. However, poison sumac, which is typically found in the South, looks nothing like poison ivy and poison oak, and where you find that is typically in the water. Now, there are two kinds of poison ivy. There is the eastern poison ivy and the western poison ivy. And you could pretty much make this case for oak as well. So poison ivy is in the east is found in a vine. You'll find it hanging from telephone poles, from trees, from old dilapidated houses, anywhere a vine can grow. In the west, poison ivy is found in bushes. We don't have vines here. I live in Idaho. I have to look out for bushes of poison ivy and not vines. However, in the east, you have vines, and you also have bushes of poison ivy. So you have the eastern and western variety. And in the south, you have the poison ivy, the poison oak, and the poison sumac. So congratulations. Alright, so where is poison ivy typically found? Because you might be saying right now, hey, I'm not an outdoorsman, I don't go into the woods, so I don't really care about poison ivy too much. Well, think again, because poison ivy loves disturbed places, especially where man has gone. In the South, you can find poison ivy all over the roads, alright? Right on the sides of the roads, I'm telling you, there will be poison ivy there. You can find it on trails, you can find it in construction areas where they're building things. You can find it along rivers where there's water. And poison ivy loves beaches as well. And in fact, they say poison ivy is good to prevent beach erosion. Wow, thanks a lot. So you just have to keep a lookout for where that poison ivy is. Here in the west, it's typically in a bush in all those places. So where I might find poison ivy and what I might need to look for, you might need, in your part of the country, might need to look for something else. And if that's not bad enough, poison ivy goes through the seasons as well. It can start out young, it could be a red plant, it could be a green plant, heck, it could have no leaves on it whatsoever in the winter, but that urushiol oil is still in that plant. So in the wintertime, you're out in the woods going, oh, there's no poison ivy out here. Well, you brush against the vine or you brush against the plant, that urushiol oil could get on your clothes or get on your skin and still cause problems. And in fact, a lot of people get it in the wintertime because they're just not paying attention, or they really just don't know what to look for. So let's identify poison ivy so that we can keep it from getting on us. Before I go on any farther, I want to thank John at poisonivy.org for sharing all of this information with me so that I can share it with you. It is a great resource and reference material on how to identify poison ivy, poison oak, and poison sumac. So go to poison-ivy.org. Check it out. They've been a big help to me. Now, what is poison ivy? Obviously, poison ivy is a plant, just like poison oak and poison sumac. Now, what do all three of these plants have in common? They contain an oil called urushiol. Now, urushiol is the oil that can get on your skin and it causes an allergic reaction. So it's not a disease or anything. It is your body making an allergic reaction to fight the urushiol oil. Now, an interesting fact about this is that you don't have to come in contact directly with the plant to get urushiol oil on you. It could get on your clothes. It could get on your dog's fur. It could get on a shovel. It could get on your gloves. You could burn it in a fire, and all that smoke containing the urushiol can get on your clothes and your skin and cause that allergic reaction. So secondarily, you could touch something that has it on there, and you touch it on your skin, and then your body has an allergic reaction. I'm told that the first time you come in contact with urushiol oil, your body doesn't do anything. It doesn't recognize that it's a problem. The second time you come in contact with urushiol oil, that's when your body starts to freak out saying, we've seen this before, we need to fight this off. So basically what I'm saying is the first time is a freebie for you. I'm also told that about 10 to 15% of the population is immune to urushiol oil. And over a prolonged period of time, you can gain immunity from urushiol oil by a repeated contact with poison ivy. That doesn't really sound like something I want to do. And the interesting thing about when you have an allergic reaction is that you might be immune one time, and then the next time your body could freak out and go into an allergic reaction. So you just never really know if you're immune or not. And what are the symptoms that you get? Well, it really depends on your tolerance level and what your body does. You know, it could be a rash, it could be a few blisters. With me, I ran the gamut. I had it all down my arm. It was weeping and pussy and scabby and stinky. It was the worst thing that I have ever had to tolerate in my whole entire life. And that's something that I don't ever want to go through again. Now, what we need to understand is that urushiol oil, all it needs to do is get on your skin, and in about, 8 to 24 hours, that's when the reaction will come on. It just penetrates that first level of skin, and your body starts to have that allergic reaction. So if you can get it off of you in that, 8-hour time period, you probably won't have an allergic reaction. So it's not instantaneous. The only problem is that when you touch your gloves the next time and you didn't get the urushiol oil off your gloves or the shovel or your clothes or your shoes, there you go again. You got another allergic reaction. So it's very important that you clean your clothes to get the urushiol oil off of you. How long do symptoms last? Mine lasted about 2 weeks. They say a week, yeah, whatever. It's a good 2 weeks of itching. Your life completely sucks. So this is nothing to trifle with. It's very serious. Let's talk about how to identify poison ivy so you don't get that stuff on you in the first place. Let's identify a poison ivy plant, and a poison oak plant for that matter as well. There is a saying called leaves of three, let it be. And you know what? That's a pretty good start on identifying a poison ivy and a poison oak plant as well. On a poison ivy plant, there will always be 3 leaves. All right, so when you're looking at it, look for 3 leaves. There'll never be any thorns accompanying those. So if the plant has thorns on it, not going to be poison ivy. So leaves of 3, and then down the stem there won't be 5 leaves later on. So it goes 3 and 3 and 3 and 3. Also, the leaves of 3 are not going to be side by side. So it's not going to be leaves of 3 here and leaves of 3 here. They're always going to be alternating. So you'll see 3 leaves here, and then down the plant there'll be 3 leaves here. Now, when there's 3 leaves, basically what happens is they're all going to come together typically at one point. And in that one point, sometimes there's a red dot. And you see that red dot, you go, oh, and leaves of 3, you can pretty much guess that that's poison ivy or it's poison oak as well. Also, on a poison ivy plant, you're going to see sometimes that there's berries on there. They start out as white berries, they turn to green berries, and then they turn into a little plant as well. So when you see leaves of 3 and then you see some berries as well, that's a pretty good indication that you have a poison ivy plant as well. Now you got to look at the leaves, because this can be tough. Because when people are looking at poison ivy, sometimes they're looking at various ways that the leaves are shaped. And it really depends on what part of the country you're in, is the way the leaves are going to be shaped. Sometimes, like in the South, poison ivy looks like a little mitten, and you'll see the plant, and you'll see a little mitten sticking out, a little thumb, and that's a good way to identify that. But you know what? In the North, it might not be that way as well. Sometimes the leaves of 3 might be shiny. Sometimes they might be dull. One thing that I'm just going to tell you what they're never like. They're never scalloped. They're never scalloped leaves, and they're never sawtooth leaves. So when you see that's a real sawtooth pattern on a leaf, that's not going to be poison ivy. And you're not going to see little thorniness on the leaves as well. So typically, you need to look at basically and identify what those leaves look like and get it in your mind, so when you see that, depending on what part of the country you're in, you can identify those as well. Lastly, I would like to add that in the eastern poison ivy, in the vine, you can typically tell about poison ivy because the vine has little hairs sticking all the way around, and they stick out going all the way around the vine. So that's a sure bet when you see the hairy vine that is poison ivy. I want to take a moment just to go over poison sumac. Poison sumac is pretty rare, but when you find it, you typically find a lot of it all together. Now, I said that poison sumac is found in wet areas, typically in swamps. It looks nothing like poison ivy and poison oak, and basically what it has is it has a 7 to 13 leaf pattern on it going all the way down. So if you're interested in finding out more about poison sumac because it's in your location of the United States, check that out so that you know what to look for and you don't run into a whole huge pack of poison sumac, because that will be bad for you. So what happens if you come in contact with poison ivy or poison oak or poison sumac? Well, the first thing you need to do is you need to get the oil off of your skin. The best way to do that is with cold water. Try not to use hot water because what that does is it opens up your pores and allows the oil to get onto you. The only problem is you got to know that you've been exposed to the urushiol oil to begin with. And if it comes off your gloves or a shovel like that, you might not possibly know that you have it on there. So this is what I always do when I go camping. When I come back, I always clean my gear, I always immediately wash my clothes, and I always wash my boots off as well. If I take my dog, I give my dog a bath as well, because I just don't want to get that urushiol oil on me. If you're from the South, you especially want to do this because you have a pretty good chance of walking through some poison ivy somewhere. Now, you get it on your skin. What kind of soap is going to clear this off? I'm not a big fan of the whole soap concept of, oh, this soap will cure it and this soap. What I really suggest to you is that it's like that oil is really thick on your skin and you really need to get it off, and the best way to do that is with a washcloth. Friction is the best way to get the urushiol oil off of you. Now, whether you use dishwashing soap or some kind of special soap made for poison ivy, it doesn't matter. You need to get that friction going. The only problem again is you got to know that it's on you. So when you take a bath, don't just lather up with your hands. Anytime you go camping and you come back, use a washcloth to really use friction on your skin. And I would suggest that you do it about 3 times. The most common places for poison ivy is between the fingers, because people didn't know, or they washed their hands but they didn't get in between their hands, and on the backs of their elbows because they didn't wash there. So it's vitally important that you clean those areas off with a washcloth, because if you just do it on your skin, you might get the urushiol oil all over your face, and it leads to a lot of problems. So make sure you clean yourself, you clean your stuff when you come back from camping, or you're working somewhere where there's poison ivy, so that you don't spend 2 weeks itching and scratching. So how do you get rid of poison ivy? If you see some that's around your house or it's close by on a tree, how do you get rid of it? Man, that's a hard one. What do? You go pull it up? Well, you know you're going to get that stuff on your gloves, on your clothes. The urushiol is going to be all over you. It's really tough, to go and pull that stuff out, although it works. How about herbicides? Yeah, you could put a herbicide on it, but you know, typically when you do that, like Roundup, you put it on there, it's going to get your grass as well. So that can be a difficult thing to do. Burning it is an absolutely no way to go about that, because if that smoke gets on you, that urushiol oil can get in your skin, get on your clothes, and worse yet, get into your lungs, and that causes a whole bunch of problems for you. I've been told that some of the best ways to get rid of poison ivy is to just have a goat eat it. I know, it sounds weird, but goats are immune to urushiol. They can eat that, they love it, so if you got a bunch of it, let goats eat it. Other than that, I don't really know what to tell you. So you get urushiol on you, you didn't know about it, you get this allergic reaction. How can you make it go away quick? I'm not going to say anything. The minute I say something on this video about how to cure poison ivy, somebody's going to freak out. Oh, that's not the way to do it. So I don't really know how you're going to cure poison ivy once you start to get that allergic reaction. Everybody's got their home remedies, and if you would like to add that in the comments page and tell me your home remedy, that would be fantastic. That would help a lot of people. However, you go to the hospital, they're probably going to say, here's some cortisone and some antihistamine. Good luck with that. All right, you put calamine lotion on. There's some other topical aids that you can put on there. I just found that nothing really works except time. I could be wrong. You might have the cure, so please share it with us if you wouldn't mind. But I'm not going to make much of a comment because I don't want people freaking out and telling me how stupid and wrong I am, and I don't know what I'm talking about. Because really, I don't know what I'm talking about when it comes to curing this stuff. Just don't get it on you in the first place. That's the important thing. Once again, I want to thank John at poisonivy.org. That's poison-ivy.org for sharing all of this information. They have a lot of awesome products, and you need to go check it out. One of them is this t-shirt. This t-shirt is really cool because it gives helpful reminders about what to look for in poison ivy, and I kind of think it's stylish and it brings awareness to poison ivy as well. They have a poison ivy teaching presentation on PowerPoint that you can use to teach other people about poison ivy. Why would you do that? Because you've got poison ivy and you've had it before, and it really is a terrible thing and you don't want anybody else to have it as well. Well, this is why you want to share it with others. They've got poison ivy charts that talk about what to look for in poison ivy, poison oak, and poison sumac as well. And what I think is kind of cool is they have these little flip cards that you can take with you when you're going out camping, backpacking, hiking, that you can use to identify poison ivy and also identify what's not poison ivy as well. I think these are really helpful, and now I keep this in my Jeep so that I can identify poison ivy in case I don't know, because sometimes it can be a little tricky depending on the age of the plant. So once again, John, I totally appreciate you giving me this information to share with others, and I highly urge you go to poisonivy.org. Okay, there you go. How to spot poison ivy. And another thing, don't wipe your butt with poison ivy leaves. Oh man, it itches. Anyway, if you like what we're doing, please subscribe to our channel. Give us a like. Share us with your friends. For Survival Skills 101, I'm a rhino. Are you prepared to look behind you?